Hello and welcome to Two Girls in a Pod. I'm Sharon,
I'm Christy.
and we are doing our first video cast. So we hope you guys enjoy it. But today's topic is it's kind of a little bit more of a serious topic. It's kind of something that we're going through, and I think even more so you're going through. I'm just hopefully being supportive of it.
Yeah. So my mom has been really ill. She's uh, in the final stages of liver failure, and has been going through this for quite some time. It's been quite a battle. So we decided to talk a little bit about that because I think that when it comes to end of life decisions and things like that, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to navigate that.
Well, I think it's sometimes to know when is the right time and what does quality of life look like. All of those things that we've talked about that have been really tough conversations to have, and knowing that we're not the only people who this is going on with.
Right. And I think, I have my brothers that I can talk to and ask them questions and things like that. And some people don't even have that, but it's good to have other people's input sometimes. But I know that it's a struggle for people. I mean, to know what to do and to navigate that. My mom's situation, she's has a lot of confusion and things like that that's happening. So, I mean, we talked about, some of the things that she would want, but just like I say, when it comes down to it and people are asking you questions and that, you always want to make the right decision for that person, and it's difficult when it's not yourself.
Well, and I think the other thing that is so hard is, always wanting to respect somebody's wishes, because there's emotion in that. There's a lot of emotion for you.
Exactly. And I know I've talked before about my dad passed back in like 2007, and when he had pancreatic cancer, and when he was going through that process, certain decisions that he had to make, and they had to ask him, about as far as treatment
Mhm.
and things like that. And he came to us and asked questions too, like, what would you do if it was you? And we both had to have that serious conversation with him about, and you have to like take yourself out of it because, you want to say, well, I want you to be here as long as you can.
Exactly.
But you have to remember that they're the ones that are going through that.
And I think the other thing that's important to realize is the personality of that individual, because for your dad, he was such an active individual as my dad was. They were always out doing stuff and things like that. And when he had that conversation with me, which I was really honored because in the years I've been with you, your dad and I didn't have a lot of those moments where we were actually just alone talking. So it was a little bit different. But and I remember I told him, I said, "You are such an active person. If you do this, it will prolong your life, but I don't know if you're going to have that same degree of activity. And if you don't have that same degree of activity, what is that going to be like for you?"
Exactly. So they were asking him if he wanted to do the treatments and that, and, told him all of the side effects and things that were going to happen. And so when he came and talked to me about that, even, I was like, as much as I want you here, I said, I don't want you to suffer any more than you have to. And if, you know, that does not improve your quality of life, that's something you have to take into consideration.
And I think the difference was too is you could have that conversation with him, whereas because your mom is really full of a lot of confusion and stuff, and she's not at that place to make those decisions, that decision making has fallen on you. For me, with my mom, my mom did go into hospice care, and one of the things is hers was so advanced. Her age, you look at you, age plays a role in that. All of these things, and where is it at with that? The the thing with your mom is she really doesn't want any more treatment. She's tired, you know. She doesn't want the scope. She doesn't want the, and I get it. And being respectful of that I think is really important.
Exactly. I mean, because, as someone that loves and cares about the person, you want to say, hey, there's all these treatments that can be done or things like that. But you
Mhm.
have to realize when the person that is going through it is tired. And, she has been struggling with this for some time. So she's been adamant that she doesn't want to continue with, the scopes and all the things that they would have to do to help her to even sustain, where she's at. And so it's been a really difficult road. And to know what to do, I appreciate that I have such great support in my life.
Well, and I think it, there's just so many variables that go into it, you know, and like I said, how do we respect somebody's wishes? And you know, and I know it's difficult even for the doctors because she doesn't want any more treatment. And
Hmm.
and as the doctor, I think he says I can do these treatments and I think they will work and I think they will make it better, but she's just not there. And you know, and so I get it. So it's kind of walking this really weird line, because the only treatment she wants right now is blood transfusions because her body's no longer making blood the way that it's supposed to. So every few days she has to go get blood transfusions in order to live, basically.
Yeah. And that's what they've said, I mean, it's already to the degree that they have talked about hospice. I appreciate what those people do. They were great for my dad. But the doctor has said that, without these transfusions, she would probably suffer. And so we've decided to continue on with that for now, not knowing if that's going to continue to have the benefit that it does now, because they've explained that over time, how the body accepts that. It's not your blood, so it's a little bit different. So
Yeah, and because it's been happening for a while, apparently the body develops like antibodies
the blood that they're
to the
giving.
blood that they're giving, and then you
Mhm.
have to go find another match. And, you know, we had that conversation with the doctor, and would really appreciate that he spent so much time talking to us and helping us to understand this, and also appreciating that his hands are tied with a lot of things as far as the treatment goes. And but even with that, you know, when we talked about quality of life, you know, and the thing is so does that look like if she has to have a transfusion every other day, then the quality of, because when she doesn't have those transfusions, she has more confusion. It's not a pleasant experience for her.
Well, a lot of times she sleeps. She gets so weak because the blood levels are so low. So she's not able to interact and have that quality of life unless she has the transfusions. So when she has them, because this has been going on for a while, the effects of it last for less time, but it gives her those opportunities to laugh and visit. Her brother goes to visit her quite often, and he'll always call me, and she gets to talk to me on the phone. And even though there's so much confusion and she gets lost and that, I don't mind because she's still laughing and there's still, life there.
And I know it was hard for you when I had the conversation with you about, you know, because we had tried talking with her the day before or something, and the nurse was so great to do a video call with us,
Mhm.
and she couldn't stay awake. It was, yeah, so it was really difficult. And then, you know, your uncle goes and then she's having that good time and where she was laughing and there, but and then I asked you, I says, well, how good is quality of life? You know, is it if we get that time where we get to laugh for an hour and then the rest of the time we're, you know, sleeping or not really there, or you know, I think that's such hard stuff. And I know it was a hard question for you because what does that quality look like?
Mhm. Well, I think the alternative, though, to me, I feel like it's important for now. I know that the blood transfusions may not continue to have the same effect, and we may have to change that plan. But
No, I meant when I asked you that question about how much time is that quality, then you kind of sat back and you thought about that too.
Mhm.
She's only having 5 minutes.
Right.
Is that enough based on this what's going on internally? And even that, it was hard for the doctor to answer because she's refusing scopes and treatment and all of those things with gastroenterology and hematology.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what's going on internally with her when your blood gets to a certain level and then it drops and does all of that. I just can't imagine it's not doing something,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. And all of it is relevant, and it's like I said, not easy to know the right decisions to make and that, but I feel confident about this for the
Mhm.
time being. And like I say, that may change in the future. And I guess I have to give a little background to let people know she doesn't live where I live. We've been in Colorado for years now, and operate our own business here and that. And she's in her home state of Alabama.
She
So,
moved back there about 3 years ago or so.
yeah, something like that. So it's been really difficult because of the distance and that.
And she can no longer live independently in that. So she
Yeah,
lives in a nursing home. It started out as an assisted living and then couldn't get her
rehabilitated.
rehabilitated.
Yeah,
Then, so now she lives there. And that's been a difficult thing for you as well. And I think there's a lot of these things. And once again, I know that, when it comes to hospice care and when it comes to people that we love being in those situations of their health declining and that there's a lot of people out there who have had these experiences and many who are probably going through that right now.
yeah, and it's such a struggle emotionally because like after she had a few falls, and that is how she ended up in the nursing facility to begin with, and needing to do the rehabilitation. But then her decline in the situation has kept her there, and she's at the point that she's not able to be moved to a long distance or that, because she at first had talked to me and wanted to come back to Colorado, and I would have loved to have made that happen
And we did. We looked into it, and it was like the base rate was $23,000 to fly her out
to do a private medical
because that's
transport.
how you would have to do it. And
Right.
that's not even with the approval of the doctors or anything like that.
Right.
But we said that we would do it, and we wanted to honor that and look into it. But her levels dropped so fast. There just a lot of that health stuff that's going on that I think is really impacting a lot of decision making.
Hmm.
And
And I think that people have to understand that too. And I know in my situation, there was a time, that I really struggled with. There's family and friends, they're concerned. And I know that they were looking at the situation like there's all the distance in between you, is there anything that you could do to change that, or that. So I feel like that, and I'm sure it was me putting pressure on myself, not thinking, am I being supportive enough? Am I doing enough? Because others may think that I should be able to change this situation. But really, it's not in my control.
and I think the other thing that's really important is we never wanted her to move back,
Yeah.
but we had to honor and respect her decision to
Hmm.
move back.
Right.
And it's not like you can't go back and undo what's been done, and it's just a matter of how do you respect those decisions and choices by people.
Hmm.
That's where we kind of had to get to because I saw what it did to you, and so I was there like, hey, we'll make this happen. We'll
Hmm.
do what we have to make it happen to where she could stay here. But at the end of the day, it was her choice to go back and to live her life in Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's made it really difficult because it's from a distance. I mean, I've traveled back, and so I've seen her when I can and talk to her as much as I can. But it's been it's been hard because of the distance and that. And like I say, me being in the situation where that they're asking me the questions, what does she want? And what should we do? And so that's been difficult to navigate.
And I think that's such a tremendous amount of pressure on people because of that emotional piece that because the person who's making those decisions, it's not like logic always plays a role in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much emotion in it. This is your mom, and even currently she's back in the hospital again.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is with this disease, the ammonia levels get too high, and that creates a lot of confusion for her as well. So she's back in the hospital right now, and they're working to bring down her ammonia levels once again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just par for the course with this particular disease,
Right.
And so that makes it hard because it's like she's up, she's down, she's up, she's down. So
Mm-hmm.
when she's down, you almost think it's easier to make those kind of decisions. But then she's up, so then it's like, whoa, wait a minute! It just messes with your head
It really
so
does.
much.
Yeah. Because then the next time I have a conversation with her and she's laughing, and even though there's confusion, it feels,
It feels like her.
yeah, exactly. And it's like there she is. And I just, want to maintain that for as long as we can.
And I mean, I that makes so much sense to me. And I think that when people look at that, those are the things that I think always make it so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting because even with your dad, we had been there visiting, and that Saturday we went out, we did all these things to the flea market, we
Mm-hmm.
went and had dinner, we had this great time. And then we left Saturday morning, and by the time we left Saturday morning, he couldn't get out of bed.
Right.
It's that fast for people.
Yeah.
And then they put him into hospice, and he didn't last very long. So we drove back to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was just a couple, 3 weeks or something like that.
We made so many trips back and forth during that time.
And then it was time to drive back to Alabama again.
Yeah.
And I think it's the emotion, it's the confusion, even on your part, and confused because, like I said, when you talk to her and when we talked to her the day before, and she was just not responsive at all. It was really hard. So it looks like this is the end, doom and gloom. And then her brother goes there the next day or day after, and she's laughing and stuff. So
Yeah. And telling me she had been working in the kitchen.
we do get to laugh a lot of
Yeah.
stuff she
She's
says.
laughing at that point too. So,
But some of the stuff she says, and it's funny because when she can't remember a word or she throws another word in, it's like
Yeah.
she catches herself.
Yeah, sometimes she does, and she'll think, well, that wasn't right.
She'll be saying something, she threw in file or something.
Yeah.
So we're still able to laugh at some stuff. But end of life, making decisions when to put somebody in hospice, and because when it goes into hospice, that it really is the end. It's not one of those things where somebody comes out of that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, it's about making them comfortable and as possible, and yeah.
So it's been, and I guess we wanted to share this with the audience because once again, we know that there are people out there who are probably in the same situation, who are really trying to navigate this, and just know you're not alone. That it's a tough place to be in.
Yes, and understanding that, people have talked a lot to me about what we call radical acceptance. And basically understanding that there are things that are completely out of our control. And as much as we want to change them, we're not able to. And even in those times, still having to make those decisions. And as difficult as it can be, I think, like I said, even for myself or anybody, I think we put more pressure on ourselves than we even realize because we're constantly, like I said, wondering if we're doing enough or wondering if other people think we're not doing enough. And sometimes even the questions that they ask makes you feel like you think I'm not doing enough. but it's you that you take those things personally, even when they're probably not intended to be. People are just talking to you out of concern or things like that. And you have to remember that. And it's hard sometimes because you are in such an emotional state and you are making such hard decisions.
And I think that's the thing. They are very difficult decisions, and being able to have that radical acceptance for what those decisions mean, and the radical acceptance that it is your decisions. Even when you talk to her brother, he always says, whatever you decide,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I appreciate that. He's always
which
so
is good.
supportive.
And it's like, okay, but I would like some.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Sometimes.
but I understand it. And once again, it's so difficult to know what is the best decision, not right or wrong, because it's not a moral judgment. It really isn't. However, anybody makes that determination and stuff. It's not a moral judgment in the least. But how do I make the best decision for somebody that I care about? And nobody likes the suffering. That I think is the biggest thing, is nobody likes to see those people suffer.
Mm-hmm. And having patience with yourself and still taking care of yourself through that time, because sometimes, like I said, when it's out of your control, you feel like you want to be there but you can't for whatever reason, whether it's work or whatever's going on. Sometimes you feel like there's almost a guilt associated or those kind of things, but you have to be patient with yourself and kind and realize, you're doing your best.
And we've had our moments with it, because sometimes you get very, not emotional. I don't know if it's that you kind of go into your own head, and then you might become distant, or you might become more argumentative, and then remembering, though, because she's the one, this is her mom. And so it's realizing that this is your process, but also reminding her, you're not in this alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember with my mom, I would have that. I would have those moments where I was just totally emotional. But at the same time, so not only was my mom in hospice and this happening, and I'm very grateful because she was in hospice with my sister, and I'm very grateful for that. And but we didn't have her long once she went into hospice. I think it was like 5 weeks. But I remember, it's like every time you hear the phone ring or the ding of your thing. I even told you, I said I had to go change my thing after my mom passed, because I couldn't.
Your message
I
tone
could not do it. It was just so hard on me. But very grateful every time she called and talked to me, even if it was for a few minutes. I didn't care. She didn't have the strength a lot of times. I didn't care. I appreciate it. Kind of like you say, every time you have those moments, it matters. And then you think, oh, okay, she's okay. But there's that other part of you that knows she's not okay.
Right.
It's such a weird thing. But I even remember in all of my emotional stuff, sometimes being distant or whatever, because I had to hold everything together, because I still was working that entire time. So I'm doing therapy. And I'm telling you right now, the universe has a sense of humor or something. I don't know what is. But I had at that time an influx of people dealing with grief and loss. And I'm there like, are you kidding me? It was hard, because, still going there, because I still have an obligation to the people that I serve. I really do. And I take that obligation seriously. But then by the time I would come home, I'm just like on edge. And I know it was hard for you as well. And I remember that. And I try to use that now, because the roles are now reversed. But I understand that in a different way because of that. And I know that you have those moments. I see it. I see that sadness on you. I see that hurt, and that and just that internal dilemma of, am I doing the right thing and stuff like that. But what I appreciate is that you talk more to me about it, you know? And you've allowed me to be a part of this journey. You've allowed me to talk with the doctors, to ask questions. And so, just a background, I actually knew your mom before I knew you.
Right.
So I was actually friends with Christy's mom before I met Christy. And so for me, she's been in my life about 20, almost 26 years because I met you, I don't know, you were off doing your thing.
Well, it was about a year later.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that I actually met you. And
Hmm.
so, your mom and I would go out to lunch and we'd just sit and talk and things like that. So I've had this long relationship with her.
Yeah.
And then when we got together, it got a little bumpy,
Yeah.
just a little bit. But then, I appreciate the fact that, we now have this relationship. We have vacation together. And when we first got together, it was not that way, because of her belief system and all of that. But at the end of the day, her love for you, you're her daughter, and that became the most important thing.
Hmm.
And so, like I said, we have vacations. We've done Disney World, we've done Mexico, we've done California and Florida, and you know, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But those things, so we've had this wonderful relationship with her, I feel like,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, it's developed over time,
Yeah.
and she always asks for you now and stuff. So
And we talk, and sometimes if she's agitated and she won't listen to you, she'll listen to me, or vice. And those are the relationships, and those are the things, and that's why it makes it hard because I think when you're going through this and you're thinking about people that might go to hospice or they're towards the end of their life, is I think you start getting that flood of memories.
you definitely do.
And then it's like you remember those things and it's like, well, maybe they could do it again. Does that make sense?
Because my mom's been battling this for so long, I did do that for a long time. At that time too, they were offering, you know, different solutions to help minimize some of that. And there were things that I thought, oh, she would just have taken advantage of this or that, maybe maybe we wouldn't be where we are right now. And her, I mean, I don't feel like 70 is old and
No.
she's 70. So I really feel like that's way too early to be going through this. But we don't get a say in those things. And some of the stuff, like I said, I wish that she had taken advantage of. Maybe we would be where we are, maybe we wouldn't.
Well, and I think the thing is once again, it comes to that thing where we have to just simply accept everybody's choices. It's
Yeah.
their life.
Yeah.
They get to make those choices. We don't always have to like them.
Right.
And we can sit back there. And I think people often do sit there and say, oh, if this, and this had just happened. But we don't know that. The only thing we do know is that we've tried to be respectful of her choices.
Exactly.
And we've pushed sometimes too because we want, or they're like, just do this, or
Try
early
this
on,
out. Let's do this.
you know.
Doctor's saying this will help. Let's do that.
And I get it. Once again, it's not our life, and
Yeah.
but here we are now, and now the decision of her life becomes yours.
Hmm.
And so that's that's such a heavy it's I don't know if I would call it a burden because I guess in a way it's a gift too. You know what I mean?
Well, there's, obviously the trust and that, so I appreciate that, she has talked to me and told me the things that are important to her as far as, these kind of decisions. So I at least have had those conversations. That has helped. But, when you're actually living it, it's a little bit different still.
Well, and like I said, we know that people out there, you guys are going through this as well, and just know that we get it and we support it, and take time, talk to people about it, use your resources. Don't
Mhm.
no, I don't feel like anybody should have to do this alone.
Yeah, sometimes you have to ask for help.
And it's so different because I come from such a large family where yours is so small.
Yeah.
And so for me, when we found out about my mom's, the kids, we got to go down and see her in Texas, and really appreciate that. My poor sister having all of us there. Whew, my poor mom.
It does help, I think, that you have a troop to consult in making some of those decisions. So
I know.
yeah, and I mean I realize it was still difficult for all of you. And I hope that, I was supportive during that time. And it's interesting because, you've talked to me, the relationship that you've built with my mom over this time, and that it's a hard thing for you too, and I get that. And sometimes I think when we're really close to the situation, we do kind of tend to forget that because we're thinking about our own stuff. And so in remembering the impact that it has on others too. I mean, like I said, when you're in the situation, it's really hard to maintain that space for that sometimes in your head.
And and I think sometimes even for me, I had to sit back and realize that it was impacting me in a lot of ways because once again, I've known your mom now 26 years.
Yeah.
It's one of those things when and because of the way I feel for you, I understand that on a different level as well.
Hmm.
But trying to navigate all of that and to be supportive of you, because you're the one who needs that support right now in a different way,
Hmm.
and but also remembering that if you have a connection to those people and you're being supportive, to also be aware of what it's doing to you.
Hmm.
Because I had to do that, and I had to have a conversation with you. I said, this is kind of hard on me too. I've known your mom a little bit and for a little while now, and I think that was helpful for you.
It wasn't at first. I felt like, you know what? This is my mom. And what are you talking about? Your grief or your concern or I was at first like that. And I think it's just a tendency that people have probably, to probably go to that space. But remembering that, like I said, holding space for that person too and realizing it is impacting you too, and I appreciate, like I said, how supportive of you are of me and the decisions that I'm having to make, and I'm not doing it alone. So that's important.
Well, but I think that it was important for me to speak up too,
Yeah.
because I think then I think it helped you, and I think it really helped me
Mhm.
because I was just kind of burying all that,
Yeah.
and just kind of trying to figure out how I navigate everything, and
Mhm.
what needs to be done first. I
Right.
kind of go to that place, and I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to be present in the moment with what I'm feeling and also to acknowledge what you are feeling and how do we do this together.
Yeah. So I'm glad you did talk to me about it. But yeah, it was.
She got a little nicer after that. No.
Yeah, at first I wanted to go to that place of being kind of angry.
And I think that's the thing. That's the other thing that I think is really important is that anger will sneak up on you.
Hmm.
But it's not anger like that. It is really grief. It is really that process, that anger that we feel when we feel like we shouldn't have to lose this person. If they, I mean, I think there's all of these things that kind of start to take place with it. And I think that that's where you've kind of come more to that radical acceptance as you talk about.
Right.
And like I said, it's been a struggle. I think more so in the last 6 months. Well, no, we went out there in May, so
Hmm.
May is kind of when we started having more of this. Um,
Decline.
and we'll be going out and seeing her again really soon.
Yeah.
So we've got that all scheduled and stuff. And once again, I get it that, and even for your uncle, so appreciate him.
Yes. Yeah, him being able to spend the time that he does with her and how he communicates with me, I appreciate that so much.
Because it's a little bit of a drive for him to go from where he lives to where she's at.
Right.
And, he'll just go sit there with her for 3 or 4 hours, even when she's not awake or she's not coherent.
Hmm.
I know this is very difficult on him as well.
Right.
But just how much appreciation we have for that
Yeah.
is really, really important.
Yeah. So it's important to remember and value those people that are, they're doing their best to hopefully be supportive. And sometimes, like I said, comes across sometimes you think, do you think I'm just not doing enough? But it's really, like I say, those things that you have to realize it's your emotion and the things that you're going through that's driving that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and one of the things is in sharing this story of this journey that we're on is that we wanted to do it because we know other people are experiencing it. And, just to know that you're not alone in these things. And we appreciate that you're listening to our story because I think that's even in a way very helpful just to be able to talk about it in a way and to share that, you know.
Hmm. It is. I mean, it's not a really pleasant topic, but we talked about there's people going through these kinds of struggles, and it's something very real. And we talk a lot about relationships and just that connectivity that we have with one another and how we can support one another. And hopefully, you have that support too if you're going through something like this.
Yes. And if you don't, go find that support,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
Share your stories even with us, and you can do that. We're going to post a question on our podcast about, what your process is and that. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. So if you want to follow us on Spotify, we're on there. We're on all the major platforms that you listen to your podcasts on. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram.
and we really appreciate the support. We appreciate people liking our podcast, and, we want to continue to do this. We think it's important and valuable. So,
Hmm.
thank you so much for your support, and we'll be back next week. Mm, Bye.
Bye.